One of the regular questions that comes up on frequent basis is when it is snowing outside, when it's super cold outside, how do you stay warm when you're just in a little pickup truck capper like this? Right now, you can see maybe that it's actually snowing out there. Snow has built up on the windows. It's chilly in here. I'm gonna go check and see exactly what the temperature reading is. So the temperature is 35, showing 35 outside right now. It says 44 inside. That's just inside the cab of the truck, and I was recently driving. That's why that's a little bit warmer. Typically that would show a colder reading. But we're starting here at 35.8. which is altogether not that bad. I've certainly had much colder times, but I wanted to show that that is, at the beginning of this video, where we're starting. When I started camping out in the cold, the first concern I had was literally staying warm when I was in my bed. When I was at night in the covers trying to sleep. I really did not want to try to sleep cold. So I do have 2 sleeping bags. One that's a good quality 3-season bag, and one that's kind of cheaper, lighter weight one. And then I have this fuzzy blanket too. So that's kind of the first layer. Then I did get these down booties that go on under sock or over top of socks. Work wonders. I hate having cold feet, so these were amazing. The next thing I did to stay warm under the covers at night when I'm trying to sleep is implement use of this water bottle. Simply heat hot water, fill it up. It's got a fill it up, unscrew that. This thing is amazing. I was absolutely blown away that I could go all night and this would still have some heat left on it in the morning. Soon after using it, I realized that it would get too hot. I would actually get kind of sweaty. So I only use this occasionally to kind of preheat where my feet are going to go. So I will heat it up, throw it under there, under the covers when I'm getting ready to get in bed. Because it will do a nice job of heating that up before I get in bed. After that, again, just concerned out of concern that I would be too chilly, I did go ahead and get this, which is a Rockpals power station. It has the ability that I can plug in a heating pad. So I have this heating pad, which is kind of pretty long, and I can plug that in. The plug is over there hanging, you can see. So I can plug this in and turn this on, and then have the heating pad if I need it. So that was all the steps I took to stay warm when I'm in the bed, again, trying to sleep. And they all worked really well. Actually, I guess you could say possibly too well, because I do get too warm on a regular basis underneath the covers. I'll end up throwing the covers off, turning the heating pad off if I've been using it, getting rid of the hot water bottle, things like that. So then came the next step and set of decisions. There are a lot of videos out there about different means and mechanisms to stay warm in the truck. My next decision after I figured out how to stay warm underneath the covers was how to stay comfortable kind of sitting like I am now. With the winter weather and of course the darkness coming on early in the afternoons, you find yourself inside the cab, quite a bit, and you don't necessarily want to, or I didn't want to spend that entire time kind of curled up under all the blankets, trying to stay warm. If I'm, especially, during the course of an evening, you might have to, it gets dark and starts getting too cold for a fire, really to stay warm by a fire. Pretty early on, you could spend multiple hours in the truck prior to it actually being ready for time to go to sleep. So I wanted to be able to sit like I am now and be completely comfortable temperature wise, and not feel like I was freezing and had to get under all the covers. There's a lot of different ideas and a bunch of videos out there about what you can do to keep the air kind of warm. The decision that I ended up making, and the route I ended up taking, I haven't actually seen in any other videos, which kind of prompted me to make this one, just so it's out there and folks know about this other option. A popular way to heat the interior of the cab where you're staying is the propane heaters. Typically they're like the buddy heaters. I have a space that is 6 feet long by 4 feet wide by maybe 3 feet, 3.5 feet high at its highest. I would say 3. No, maybe not even. It's not very tall. I don't have a high topper. I just have a flat topper. So one of those heaters really was going to be too much for my space. Now, there is I think they call the little buddy versions that are like that just take the little stand-up propane canister and create a heat source out of that, which I did look at very carefully. I came really close to going that route, came very close to buying it. What held me back was, one, I already have a butane stove, and I wasn't excited about putting another form of flammable gas, being propane, also in the back of my truck. And from what I read and gathered from the experiences of folks using them, is they heat up super fast. They will more than adequately warm a space, but it almost gets too hot. There didn't seem to be a whole lot of heat control, so it was kind of either it's on, it's blasting hot, and you're really warm, then you cut it off. When you get too chilly, you have to cut it back on again. That did not sound kind of like the kind of setup I wanted. I like the idea that it would get warm very quickly and heat a space very quickly, but I didn't like that you kind of end up having maybe to turn it off and on a frequent basis. Ideally, I think I would go electric, but of course being off-grid as much as I can and camping without electricity, that does limit me just to my Rockpals, which I did get the smallest one they have. I went ahead and I thought this was going to work for me. I bought this low wattage. It's like a 200 watt little electric heater. So it just plugs in. It does heat up. It does do a nice job. It has 2 settings, low and high. If I use it on low, I can actually successfully plug it into this and make it work. What I found out though, and what I should have realized, is that it drains this out in a matter of probably no more than 15 minutes, maybe 20. So that means I would get 20 minutes of heat. Then I wouldn't have heat in the morning, I wouldn't have heat the next day or the next time until I could recharge this, and it does take quite a while to recharge. So that didn't end up being a good solution. So what did I land on? This is my Coleman butane stove. It works off of these, which are fairly inexpensive and easy to acquire, these butane fuel canisters. A couple things I love about this: quick start, don't need to do anything extra. And this is the simple thing that ended up being my best go-to for heating my space. It's a little awkward doing this one-handed, but there we go. So this will sit on any one burner stove, or any stove that has a burner on it, which all stoves will of some sort. It is a simple double-walled canister, and you can see it's starting to heat up. So I do want to go over and just check, because it has gotten a little bit chillier since I've been talking. It's 36, just under 37 degrees. 8 minutes after 2. And we'll see how this does as it begins to heat up. So you can see it's starting to glow, nice and red and kind of cheery. I find it cheery because I know it means that I've got a warm place to be. Just a note on this, of course, you do always want to have proper ventilation when you use any kind of stove inside, which this is technically inside. So I do have my window cracked, which of course does bring in the cold air, but we'll see that it gets balanced out nicely by this as it warms up. I also have, of course, a carbon monoxide detector in the truck just for safety's sake, so we don't have any problems with that. Now, one problem, as much as I love this stove, that you do encounter with butane, of course, is that the canister actually gets colder the longer it burns. So I just had to stop the stove and pull the canister out and warm it up, which does happen a time or two. That's only because I'm using butane. That has nothing to do with this actual chimney kind of heater mechanism. If I had propane and didn't have that problem, it would just obviously continue to heat. But because I had to cut it off and warm up the canister before putting it back in, it's going to slow the heating time down overall a little bit. And I might have to do that once or twice before the canister warms up and this mechanism warms up the entire air to keep the canister itself from getting too cold to burn efficiently. You can see it's starting to melt. The warmth of it's starting to melt the snow that accumulated on the window. So it's been going for a little bit in here. I have stopped it and kind of warmed up the canister a couple times. Again, that's just because it's butane that I'm using and not propane. But any stove this will work on. Any stove that has a round surface that this unit can kind of just perch on will work just fine. And you can see it there fully kind of glowing and warm. Really puts off a nice radiant heat. And right now, we've got it up to almost 50 degrees in here, which may sound kind of chilly, but keep in mind that's over here, and while it's not very far, it is across the other side, so it's a good 4 feet away, and it's also on the outside kind of wall of the cap of the shell. So I would highly recommend. Simply for efficiency's sake, it takes something I already have, my stove, and with the addition of this one thing, turns it into a very efficient and comforting and reliable heat source. So I sat here and I was thinking that one other potential way to heat that folks sometimes use and a lot of people really seem to like is the candle lantern. UCO? I'm not sure how to say it. I think it's UCO. Has a 3 candle lantern that folks say really heat nicely. My reticence to go that way is based on one, I don't understand where the wax goes, and it seems like the wax has to go somewhere, and it feels like that could get pretty messy, even if it's contained in there within the unit itself. And the second is that aside from having 3 candles and being able to blow out 1 or 2, you don't seem to be able to have a whole lot of control over the amount of heat you get out of that. It's now just above 50 in here after a few minutes of time, and I'm actually to the point now where I would start reducing the heat on this, which I can control nicely. Here, let me show you. So you can see that's what the flame looks like right now, but by simply backing this off, I can put it down like that. And generally, after I get warmed up, get the air warmed up initially, I can just back it off to that. Obviously, which burns less fuel, is less of a concern for any carbon monoxide issue or anything like that when it's burning so lowly, and it'll just keep things at a nice even temperature for as long as I want, for as long as I have fuel. And this does burn fuel, just in general. It burns fuel, seems to very easily, very efficiently. It doesn't eat up a lot of fuel. Can make these little canisters really last. So I'm going to finish up with just some shots of this little stove in use and this little double-walled heater. I'll have a link to the one that I purchased in the notes, and I'll show you some shots of different temperatures that I've been able to get, differences between the outside and the inside heat.